Come here, coffee. You make life worth living. I can't sing to save my life. And when I do, I go a little bit 90s, like I'm in some weird 90s rock band. Sup kids, happy International Women's Day, which I realise I'm a day late on. Which, not a day late. And this goes out on a Friday, so I couldn't say it yesterday. I wasn't going to put up a day early. But yesterday, March 8th, was International Women's Day. So, I mean, maybe congratulations. Is congratulations the right word? Congratulations to all the ladies out there? That doesn't sound right. I'm not too sure what the actual. Happy International Women's Day, obviously. And for any bitter men out there who are instantly triggered with the question of when is Men's Day, it's November 19th. Just throwing that out there. So, as part of International Women's Day, I attended an event last night, which was Women in the Arts, which you will have seen me chatting to Melody Clark and Sarah Hughes last week when I had them as guests on the show, and we attended the event last night, and it was fantastic. It was a huge success, sold out event, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was good. It was like 5 hours. We were there from 7 till midnight. And it was great. It was fantastic to see so many performers. I mean, whilst it was great to see so many female performers getting up and being brought to the spotlight, so to speak. For me personally, it was just great to be out anyway. So it was an adage of you're out and enjoying something which is culturally significant, as well as just being out and about. But it was fantastic. It was so good. The people who performed, I want to say congratulations to, because you were all great. There wasn't a down moment in that show, and I encourage anybody. I think they're planning on doing it maybe quarterly. I think they were saying last time. But just go like their page and stay up to date with all their events and things, because it's an important cause. And another point which annoyed me last night was that this was a sold out event. That doesn't happen very often in Lincoln. Lincoln is kind of culturally devoid at times. Getting people to attend things is quite hard anyway, and it was the first time it was being put on, and a location which is a little out of the way, for an important cause, and the local media didn't cover it at all. Like, at all. I'm just throwing that out there, okay? So, the local newspapers, yesterday, the stories which they were reporting on was something to do with a cheese society, which has existed in Lincoln for years, so didn't particularly need the publicity for this one-off day, and car accidents. That was the majority of the news yesterday, and closures of stores. So I'm just, I'm a little irked about that, especially considering I know that the press were contacted. I don't know really how to solve that, but I know that's the ownage of news media, especially media around Lincoln Way. A lot of the establishments don't want to put a political slant on things, and they might have seen this as a political event. But to me, it wasn't. It was just an empowering event. I mean, even as looking at it as someone might take offence to it, or someone might think, oh, it's a women's only event. I went. There was plenty of other males there, and at no point did you feel belittled. And this was something which they were very adamant about when they were putting on the event, was that it was an inclusive event. It was for everybody. It was, it was to empower people and bring everyone together. And there was a great piece performed on the night, which really just took hold of that and was taking hold of the whole idea of why are we belittling people? Why are women belittling other women? And why do you have to drag men down to push yourself up? You don't. And this event proves that. I don't know why I'm talking. I'm talking to the camera a lot today. It's a little weird. I mean, if you're watching this, nice eye contact, prolonged eye contact. But yeah, it was fantastic, and nothing can take away from how good that event was. And I just wanted to start my day talking about that because it's an important subject, and I've been quite lucky, I think, within my life. It's something which I've discussed quite a few times with female artists and female friends, that obviously there is this huge disparity in when you come up through the education system in the UK, and you come up within the society we have, you do see a lot of male role models. You see a lot of this guy did this and this guy did this, and history is made by men and that kind of thing. Whereas I was quite lucky that when I got to college, I had 2 female art teachers, and the majority of the artists they showed me were women. I had I was thrown in, and these were the artists they were showing me. It was quite rare for them to show me a male artist, which wasn't particularly a problem because I could go out and find my own male artists. But especially with art, I don't tend to cut it along gender lines. I look for the people who are exploring the subjects which I want to explore for my theory, and that's how you should cut it. I think that's how anyone should cut it. You should never approach it as I'm looking for a male artist, I'm looking for a female artist. You should look at I'm looking for a concept, and this person is doing that concept, and that's important to me. So I look at their work. But that continued as well into university, where I went to university, and a lot of the photographers which I was shown were female. A lot of what I was seeing, it was all quite balanced for me personally. And I know that's rare. I'm very lucky for that. Oh, as you can probably guess, by the way, I'm back on coffee, and life is fantastic. not to make too much of an exaggeration of it, but my God, coffee is Me and this coffee could get a room, and I think I could show this room a good time. This room, shit. This coffee. I could show this coffee a good time. But yeah, that's just my little piece. The little piece to start off today it was discussing that event and how well that event went and what it meant. But it made me think as well, because obviously everything makes me think. Of whenever you go to anything, you automatically try and inclusify, maybe compare. Yeah. Look at it from your perspective and how it fits into your life, and how people are fitting into your life. And as I do that, there kind of came a realization to me, because I was at this event, and a few people, if you sit there for 5 hours, a few people will get bored. That's just a fact of life. You can't please everybody. Everyone has different attention span. Everyone has a different level of what will make me bored. And something occurred to me, which I've kind of thought before, was that I don't think I've ever truly been bored. Ever. I mean, as a kid, there used to be these periods as a kid where me and my brother would be bored. But it's because you're a child, and you're unaware of the options available to you. But even as a child, we weren't particularly bored. We had things to do, and so we just did them. We'd find ways to entertain ourselves, and that was something which was always heavily encouraged by my parents. Was, if you are bored, find something to entertain yourself with. They aren't there to entertain you. Once you passed a certain age, it becomes your responsibility to entertain you. And so we did. We would go out and do whatever. We'd build box forts. There was a great game we'd play where we'd just build a tent over a bench. I don't know why we did it. But we'd have blankets, we'd build this tent over a bench, and it was great. And you'd have bunks, because the bench had a seat and then the floor, and most of the time you end up sleeping on the floor, but that's a whole different thing. We didn't really have an actual tent, we just built this tent. We had Lego. We had different things to entertain us, and if we didn't, we'd just make things. I remember distinctively having a box full of boxes, which I just build things out of. because Art Attack existed in my life, and Art Attack made me think you could build anything out of anything, and you can build anything out of anything. That is a universal truth. It's not necessarily going to be good, but you can do it. You can keep yourself entertained, and that's something which I think I've kept through life. Is I'm never really bored, and I don't know what that says about me. I don't know if that says that I have an infinitesimal attention span, or whether I'm just simply easily entertained or easily amazed. And I think it adds to other things of the type of artwork which I'm attracted to, and the type of artwork which I make. I do a series which, I mean, not really a series, it's something which I do every so often, where I just I find blank spaces, and I love blank spaces, and I don't know why I love blank spaces. I just look at them, and something about them gives me a tranquility, especially man-made blank spaces, like manufactured spaces which are just filled with, concrete and steel and plastic and all the things which waste. You kind of just stare at them as this was created, this was designed, and it likely wasn't designed to give you a conceptual reaction or some sort of emotional reaction. It was just designed fit for purpose, and then you stand in it, and suddenly everything changes, and the world seems slightly a little calmer. I don't know, but that's just me. That's something which I've always had, and even today, on a weekend. So people say they get bored. They want to go back to work because they need something to make them feel like they're fighting apathy and entropy. And I just don't have that. There's always something to do. There's always something I can be doing. If I don't have something I'm doing, I will find something to do. But at the same time, I'm completely fine with just sitting and doing nothing. There's a thing which I'm doing recently. I think it was because, it was something which I missed greatly from not having coffee, was when I have a cup of coffee, occasionally I'll do this thing where it'll just be an afternoon, and I'll just make a cup of coffee, and then I'll sit in my back room at a table doing nothing. And I'm just sat enjoying a cup of coffee. And that sounds incredibly boring to some people. Some people will need music, they will need television, a book, They will need something to do, and I don't. I sit. I just enjoy the moment, because moments are entertaining in ways which I can't even fathom. And that kind of blows my mind at times. But at the same time, I also think it's kind of just stupid, because there's nothing happening, but everything's happening at the same time, and you got to look for all those little moments. I think I've said it before. You got to try and find those little moments. And I always find it so strange when meeting people. It's something I've never been able to relate to, with meeting people who are constantly bored, or they constantly need something to do, which is physical, or they need to be spending money, or they need to be, going outright to feel like they're actually doing something, rather than just feeling like, being is doing something, and enjoying, the moment is doing something. And yet there's a lot of people who can't connect with that, and recently I've been thinking that's quite strange that I can't comprehend that, because at the same time I have quite a hard time making connections with people on an emotional level. It's quite difficult for me. It takes me a long time to trust people. It takes me a long time to get into a mindset where I'm completely comfortable with a person. I'm a very shy person, as most people know. When they meet me, I'm quiet, and I sit around, and I'll just do what I can to help you in whatever situation you're in. But for the most part, I'll be very quiet. And then I meet these people who thrive on going and doing, and whilst I do that and I enjoy that, on some level, in my brain, I don't need it. I don't need to have something to do. There's the other reason kind of coming up is I've got about a week's holiday, and this year is kind of like a saving year for me in terms of finance. Is a year when I'm trying to save money, so I can do stuff later next year and that kind of thing. And So the more I want to save money, the less I go out, the less I go do things outside my house, because I can just do things inside my house. I got plenty of content, plenty of bits and bobs I can be doing inside my house, and I've got this week. So instantly I'm thinking, well, maybe I should go on holiday. You know, if you take a week off work, you feel like you have to go do something which you wouldn't usually do, because you've suddenly got this expanse of time which you wouldn't have in general. And then I sat thinking, well, I don't want to go anywhere. There's nowhere I'm desperate to go. There's places I want to visit, but I want to visit them on my own time. I want to do some research. I want to go out my way, and so this isn't the right time. So I'm not itching to do it. I'm not chasing it. Maybe that's my general relaxed attitude, but chasing an idea and chasing an activity always kind of fills me with a sense of a little bit of dread. But I get this week. And so, well, what am I going to do this week? I could do nothing in that week, and it would be fine. I could spend that week just chilling out, reading, eating food, you know? I mean, I'm not going to, because the compulsive nature of me creating things, I will end up creating things, and I'll have a week creating things, and then great, you know, I might not even leave my house for a week. But there we are, you know? And I wouldn't feel bad at the end of that week, because it's my time. And boredom just doesn't particularly exist for me. And I'm so curious of how people experience boredom. I tried to think back to when we were kids, as I mentioned earlier, of when we would feel bored. And I think boredom maybe is perhaps incorrectly defined for adults. As a kid, you are told you're bored. You know, what's he doing? Oh, he's just bored. You know, why is he acting up? He's bored. You know, boredom isn't even boredom. If boredom is suggested that you are not entertained. To me, that's the definition of boredom. I will quickly Google this whilst I am spouting, because I feel like boredom. There's apparently a meme called Bored Panda. I've just discovered right there. Boredom, meaning. Okay, a state of feeling bored. I'll die of boredom if I live too long. A lack of enthusiasm, lack of interest, lack of concern, apathy, uninterestedness, languor, malaise. It's very existential boredom, by the looks of this. But you know, it's not being entertained. That's what boredom is suggested to you. As a child, you are told that you are bored because you are not entertained, and that is why you are doing what you are doing. And so they look to solve your boredom, and they give you things to do. I may have lost track. Oh no, I was comparing when I was a kid to when I was an adult. So yeah, you're told this as a child, and really, that's not a truth to a child. So, as an adult, you essentially have a finite imagination to some extent, because you're aware of the world. You're aware of everything which is going on, to the most part, within your life. You're aware on some level of how the world works. So if you have an idea, for instance, you say, you know what, I'm going to sell grilled cheese sandwiches. I'm going to get a toastie, and I'm going to sell cheese toasties, and that'd be a great idea. I'm going to go do that. We could call it, the Cheese Plaza, and everyone will come and buy our cheese toasties. Okay, so you've had this idea, and within your boredom, and you think that's great, and then you suddenly realize, well, most of this isn't, possible to some extent, because I don't have any startup money, I don't have a bank loan, I don't have a venue, I'm not particularly sure what is the best cheese sandwich. Maybe I'd have to use different types of cheese, which means I'd have to learn all about cheese. And suddenly you've got 6 or 7 problems, which will stop you doing from that idea. Because that's being an adult. That is putting real life over the coverage of some fantasy. Children don't have that. They don't have the restriction of I can't do. All their can'ts come from their parents, because you're teaching them about the realities of life. So when someone says a child is bored, I don't think it's because they're not entertained. In a way, they're just frustrated. Because a child will have millions of ideas, literally millions of ideas, and they will be as far out as you can understand. They will be, unicorn ice creams. They'll be tragic, dramatic, ennui setting wars where ponies and small cardboard boxes go to war with one another because the cardboard box kingdom needs more empire because it's gradually expanding, and then the rains are coming and their army will be destroyed, so there's a finite amount of time, and the ponies want to live in the cardboard boxes. They want to skin them and they eat them and live in their cardboard boxes because that will make them warm. Now, that is a massive idea. As a child, you will look at that idea and you think, this is fantastic, I can do anything with this idea. And then your parents come along and say, what the hell are you talking about? You realise that all of that is complete nonsense. If that happened, surely the eggs would come along and destroy both armies because eggs are impenetrable. But what I'm saying is that they won't feel a restriction on that idea. They'll just say, yeah, I've got this idea. And then suddenly they find frustration because, one, they're told that their idea is a bit ludicrous, and two, they're unaware that it's imagination. They just think, well, this is an idea I have. And then they suddenly become apathetic because they realize they can't bring something from their imagination into reality. And that whilst that's, as I say, it seems hugely sad that is a reality, but that is obviously part of learning as you grow up. And yet we apply it as boredom. We apply it as, oh, well, they're uninterested now. It's like, no, they're not interested. They're frustrated. They're frustrated that they can't bring something that they imagined in their minds into reality. And that's a harsh lesson which you learn as a child. That is a harsh reality, but it's a necessary one because it allows us to separate imagination from reality. And the more I think about it now, the more I wonder whether people I've met who really get bored easily and go out of their way to do things are people who had different lifestyles growing up in a way. I don't particularly know where that thought going. The different ways of sort of raising people. And maybe as a child it was hammered home too much that their imagination has a stopping point and that you'll never bring anything from your imagination into reality. And maybe that's the difference between raising someone and them being a creative person to someone who's, less creative. I happen to think that everyone has a creative inclination because creation is part of invention and every human is capable of invention. That's essentially what makes us unique. Though some animals do invent. I'm not going to get into that right now, but so think about it. You have a child who has a fantasy idea, and every time they have this fantasy idea, someone comes along and says, "Nope, that's fake. It's from your imagination. Therefore, it will never be a reality." And then on the other side of it, you have someone who raises a child and says, "Oh, you've had this idea. That's a really interesting idea. We'll hear more about it. I'll explain why it's not possible. But at the same time, it's fantastic that you've had this idea. This one's not possible. Maybe next time it will be." And I think maybe that's something I was told as a child. I don't know. I will grill my parents on whether this was something we were taught, but I never particularly felt restricted by them. There was never anything to suggest the ideas I was having were never going to be anything. And I've had some stupid ideas in my lifetime. Especially as a child. I've had stupid ideas as an adult. I have complete fantasy ideas as an adult. I've just described a third year war between the boxers and the ponies and the eggs. I mean, I didn't mention they went to 3 years. Sorry, I expanded it on whilst I was pontificating. And, I never felt restricted, so in a way I never felt particularly frustrated by my own imagination and never needed an outside interference to make me entertained. It's got a little Freudian and self-introspective in this. And in a way I wanted to. Today's blog was wanting to look a little bit more of me. I met a gent last night called James, and he mentioned he'd listened to my solo podcasts and enjoyed them a little bit more than my guest podcasts. And I found that incredibly interesting, mainly because I get less views on my solo podcasts. I do them essentially just to fill a week and as a cathartic exercise for myself, and I thought that was really interesting. And having my discussion with Mel and Sarah prior last week, and talking about how they don't see a lot of vulnerability from men, I thought it'd be interesting just to kind of take a little delve into my past and take a little delve into where I come from and why I am the way I am, and apparently give parenting advice. You know, if you tell a child everything they think is wrong, the chances are they'll just stop thinking, and then they'll need outside entertainment. Whereas if you give them a little bit, you give them a little bit of indication that what they're doing could be right, then, you know, don't tell them everything they're thinking is right. Otherwise we'll end up with ponies and box wars. But you give them that little bit of edge and you say, this one's not so good, not possible. Next one. Come to me with the next one. Keep bringing me things. Because if you keep bringing me things, you connect more with your child. You connect more with the things they make, and you understand them a little bit better. And you help them in the future, you know, deal with the entropy of existence. I don't know, does that make sense? What do you think? Are you bored? Do you get bored? Is this boring you? Or the word bored in this? I'd like to know what you think. And with that point, I shall talk to you guys later. See you next week.